All right. What's up? What's up? What's up? Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. How are you doing, Benson?
Doing fantastic, man. Just
Awesome.
doing so good. Lots of exciting things. Just people are really loving the new rental data analysis features.
For
People are
sure.
really digging into it, and people who like maybe hadn't even thought about rental properties before because it just maybe felt out of reach, are now like starting to think, oh man, maybe this isn't as far out of reach as I thought it was.
Most
And
definitely.
um, and also too, like the planning, like a lot of people who we typically have in these calls are thinking about wholesale, but there's thinking like, man, well, if I can wholesale, 3 or 4 deals this year, I could have a nice down payment on a rental property, right? Depending upon what market you're in. I mean, shoot, if you're in the Midwest, I mean, you could probably go
All
buy
day.
a rental property for 60 grand and cash flow a couple $100 a month. You got 60
Absolutely. Well,
grand and you put
and
down 20%. I mean, that's nothing. That's like less than one wholesale deal.
I was just going to say too, one of the craziest things that we started doing was going and trying to find people that were working these rental deals. So agents that, while obviously we're looking for investor friendly realtors, these are agents that are in proximity to deals that are rentals. So why not go and work with them and see if they maybe have buy and hold buyers, or if they are even interested in maybe bringing pocket listings. We had one conversation last week where we ended up calling a realtor where their primary focus was property management. So I had a million different questions. I was like, okay, well, hypothetically speaking, if you had an opportunity where a deal was about to be listed that might have been a rental, what's the process? Do you just list all of those, or do you guys have VIP buyers or investors that you send it to prior to listing it? And the answer was yes. So there is plenty of opportunity. There's a lot of updates, and I love to see obviously the growth of Privy. It's super cool to be able to see the system upgrading and updating every single month. And then even so, it's cool for us to be able to understand that the reason it updates is because it's trying to make our lives easier. So when they go and they add all these different tools for you to use, it's cool to be able to have a show like this to go back and watch and see the replay. How do we go in and comp these properties? How do we understand the rental data? More importantly, how do our investors or buyers look at this rental data? So it's really cool to see. Benson, it's been one of my favorite features updated. There's so much going on. And on top of that, too, I've been getting a lot of good feedback from people in DMs about the agent investor person up at the top of the tab. People
Oh,
that are
cool.
saying, I'm calling these realtors. And when they answer the phone, they're like, oh, awesome. What market are you in? It's just like higher level investor conversation as opposed
Yep.
to going in trying to just make a relationship happen organically with a realtor you've never talked to before. So
Yeah, and it's that cold call where you're calling an agent without them being a Privy user or one of our highlighted agents now is warm because you can say, "Hey, yeah, I'm calling you because you're the agent that I got from Privy,"
yep,
right? And they're like, "Oh," and then all of a sudden the walls come down, and they're just like, "Let's have a candid conversation. Let's find a win-win here." And then it's just like a courting relationship. It's like dating, right? You want to put your best foot forward. You want to convince them that you are worth working with.
absolutely.
The main thing there, though, is just making sure that you're not wasting people's time. Like there has to be a legitimate possibility that you guys are going to make money together. That's what it's all about. That's what
For
agents
sure.
care about the most. They want to know that their effort with you is going to lead to a commission eventually. It doesn't have to be right away, right? They just want to know that if they invest in that relationship, that at some point they're going to be able to say, man, I got a check because I spent time with this person,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're an investor, wholesaler, another agent. It's just that that's what business is all about. It's got to be a win-win, and people have to come out of the back end, financially better than they went in.
For sure. And I think that that's what it comes down to. It's and also too, I mean, thinking about it from the standpoint of you as an investor using a system like this, you have to know that the value that you're providing to specific agents is going to be performance based. So going in and lying and trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not, we're not telling you to go and watch a show like this and try to go out there and basically BS your way through this. You're not going to go out there and fake it till you make it. You're not going to go in there and say you flipped a bunch of homes, you have a bunch of rentals. You have to actually be able to go and just be honest. And this is the genuine part of building a relationship. And what Benson just mentioned about value, it's not built over one phone call. It's built over the span of, I mean, the fastest I've seen like a relationship really grow is like a week, 2 weeks. But realistically, it takes months. It takes potentially even years to get to the point to where you make a couple phone calls. Guess who your best buyers are? You have a few people that you call and you say, hey, I got this deal. They believe it. They are going for it. They trust you. Now, do you want to know what happens on the other end of the system? Well, maybe you start sending a bunch of deals to people that are buyers that just, it's not a deal. You start calling a bunch of agents and start asking them for all these things, but you're never providing value to them. Who do you think is the person that's going to stop answering the phone? It's probably the person that wasn't getting the value from you. And that's okay. It's just a matter of knowing your position and how you can actually provide value to each of these relationships. So if you even go back and you start at episode 1, you see where we're at today. Hopefully you understand that everything we do in this show is value driven. We're going out there and we're providing value to the relationships that we're forming while letting the system drive. I think that's the best part about Privy, is that the system does all the work for you. You don't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go out there and even use the old school 1990 look of MLS. You don't have to go out there and even have a real estate license. You just need to take action. You need to make a few phone calls. You need to submit a couple offers. That's what I love about Privy.
You know, I just had another really cool idea. Can you see my screen, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely.
So all Privy users get access to 10,000 downloads per month. And you do with that what you want. You could use that to build your buyers list. You can use it to build lists of people who are potentially in distressed situations that might have a higher sense of motivation because their house is in foreclosure or the house is vacant or what have you. But think about this, Ryan. If you were an agent, you are an agent, and a wholesaler said, you know, I'll get this, you know, I want to make this a win-win. You know, do you do listings at all? Right. And if they say yes, you might be able to pull a list from Privy and be like, hey, listen, I can actually pull a list of foreclosures from my system. I'd be happy to share it with you. Maybe you can get some listings from it. How would you respond if a wholesaler did that for you?
The first question, as somebody that maybe has a little bit of experience, might be, who else has this list? What's it going to cost me? This seems too good to be true. It's a lot of like almost doubt. Now, if I was newer and I didn't know, or even if I was a seasoned agent and I asked those questions and you answered it amazingly, which I know we would, it would be, why wouldn't I? Why not? What do I have to lose? So the biggest thing, and the reason I give both perspectives, is because Benson brought up at a phenomenal point. If you're not going and being able to find a way to collaborate, or like I just mentioned, provide value, what do you think the hardest part of being a realtor is? It's to find a client. Well, a client is somebody that is willing to buy or sell real estate. So in that case, if a foreclosure was a list that you could pull and share with a realtor, that would be value that you're providing to the realtor. So in return, you're not asking for necessarily anything from the deals unless there's an opportunity where you could come in and offer cash. That's the best part of this win-win, is that what do you think that they would do then if they just got a list from you with no expectation of having to pay you for it, and all in return that you asked was for the next opportunity they come across? You're the first person that comes to mind. That's the beauty behind that, where, I mean, Benson, to be completely honest with you, I'm even sleeping on that opportunity. Like, I'm not really going out there and exporting anything, foreclosures, pre-foreclosures. I'm just using it to go out there and find deals. So that's an opportunity, especially if you're not licensed. If you're trying to find value to provide to a realtor, you could do that.
Absolutely. And maybe it isn't just to give them a list. Maybe there's a whole game plan where we attack this list together. We're reaching out to these people. Maybe we combine some marketing where, you know, we spend, you know, $200 each and we send out a mailer, and then anybody leads that come in, maybe I can get an off-market deal, and then maybe you get a listing, but we'll work those leads together, kind of thing.
I love it.
That could be great. So you guys noodle on that a bit. There's some opportunity there. Again, we give you 10,000 per month, and I guarantee you guys aren't all using those, and they reset every month, so it doesn't accumulate. So you can't go and download 14, what would that be? 140,000 people right now, because it's month 7 times 10. Actually, it would be 70,000. You can't go download 70,000 people right now from Privy. You can only download 10,000. So the ones that you didn't use in January, February, March, April, May, June, those are gone.
Yep.
So what can you do with those people? Think about that. Those are valuable lists that you can cultivate and turn into potentially future leads, or maybe you can provide value to an agent by sharing those lists or leads with them.
For sure. And you just mentioned a couple ways for finding opportunities for the agents. Let's not forget that you could export a list of cash buyers for yourself if you're wanting to go and look for that as well. Benson, if I'm not mistaken too, you can you export lists of realtors, or is that an option?
No, you can't export lists of realtors.
Okay. So, but still from the cash buyer standpoint, thinking about it, if you were to go out there and try to focus in on dispo on deals, or you're trying to go in and target a specific area of cash buyers, a lot of times we talk about how you can get this list from a title company. But if you're already using Privy and paying for it, you have access to go and do it. Now, again, I'm not going to tell you how to export your lists, but at the end of the day, if you weren't going and using the 10,000 anyway, the 10,000 cash buyers, I mean, that's not a bad list to pull every single month if you weren't pulling data otherwise. So just finding ways to utilize this, understanding the system and how it actually works to its highest capacity. I think that's the overall goal for all of you guys to know about Privy. I mean, from finding buyers to exporting data to going and actually acquiring and finding deals, there really isn't any excuses. And that's what I love about when I talk with Benson is that every time I talk to him about Privy, it just gets easier and easier to understand the system and to use. And I think that's the goal for everybody here. It's not to go out there and understand how to maneuver through an MLS. If you're unlicensed and got access somehow, congrats, but also you probably don't know what you're doing. Some of you that are realtors probably don't know how to use the MLS to the best capacity. So if you have a software like this that basically puts all of the opportunity in front of you, I would say with 100% confidence, that's value. So I think that we've gone through a number of videos trying to find buyers. I think today we make it a little bit more focused on finding deals and opportunities and what some of those conversations look like with acquisitions. So when you're trying to find a deal from a realtor that has an active listing, you have to first off know that you have a buyer already lined up. In some markets, obviously I am a buyer as well, but we can go in there and we can give offers on properties based on the condition that it's in, based on how many days it's been on market, based on whatever our buy price comes out to with confidence. So now I'm going in submitting offers on properties. What does the conversation look like? Do I jump into it and say I'm a realtor? Do I jump in to say I'm a buyer? Do I automatically assume that the listing agent's going to represent me? All of those are options, but it's just a matter of situational. So situational awareness is something I preach 24/7. But if you understand that when you're looking at these deals, most of the time, especially if you're licensed, you should be going in trying to be representing yourself, having a TC on your team representing you, or at very worst case scenario, going unrepresented. Now, does that mean you shouldn't go dual agency? No. If you find that the seller or the listing agent is more likely going to accept your offer than somebody else's, that's when I think dual agency makes sense. So in some of the markets, if you've seen me do this before, I've gone in, I've had the other agent just assume to represent me. I've had them write up offers for me on the live. Our goal is basically to show you those are states I'm not licensed in. In Arizona, it's the only state I am licensed in. I am a buyer. I am licensed. We consistently do deals every month in Arizona where we represent ourselves in the transaction and get a commission on the deal. So that's the beauty behind our strategy is that there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's a lot of different ways that you could get deals. Obviously, the goal is still to just sell them. Once you get them, don't cancel. But after that, it is just a numbers game like anything else. So it doesn't matter if it's creative finance, doesn't matter if it is traditional wholesale, doesn't matter like traditional wholesale being direct to seller, doesn't matter if it's wholesale MLS working with agents, doesn't matter if you're out there trying to be a disposition wholesaler and JV a bunch of deals. It's all a numbers game. So now it's just a matter of making sure you know your numbers, and then how do you go and actually acquire the deals? I had a few people inside of our Discord talking about the market Arizona. Benson, I kind of mentioned it to you before we went live here. What's your thought on going into Arizona today?
We can definitely try it. And there are deals to be had there for sure. We'll drill down in there, but I want to talk about in general the strategy on why you would even choose Arizona or the Phoenix market, because you could choose anywhere in the US, right? Really. And so over here on the left, we have these investor quick activity buttons. And if we click this one that says fix and flip, what that does is it plots on the map where all of the fix and flip activity is located. And we all know that in this business, when we measure how good a deal is, we say, okay, what percentage of ARV is it? Well, the percentage of ARV, after repair value, that can only be determined if you have renovated houses. This is why we only look in areas that have renovated homes. The easiest way to find a deal is to find the unrenovated house that's right next door to the renovated house that was fixed and flipped and sold yesterday. That's what your goal should be. If you want to make this the most simple, streamlined process that's the easiest to understand, where the comps are plentiful and where the after repair value is obvious and where the numbers just make sense and you can understand what the ARV is, and it's no problem determining the offer because it's just a percentage calculation. And then if you also want the disposition to be really simple, where you don't have to convince buyers that your house is a deal, the comparative, the comps explicitly prove that the after repair value what it is, and it basically sells itself. The best way to do that with all those benefits is to target a high investor activity area. We don't talk about that every week just because it's something we like to talk about. It's so important that if you are looking in areas that have low investor activity, no investor activity, just put it on your calendar, the date that you're going to get out of the business. You're not going to be able to build a sustainable, predictable, consistent business with deal flow that you can rely on if you're in Dodge City or Taos or Amarillo or any of these areas that have low investor activity. That's why Phoenix is such a good market. So if we come down here and we look at the Phoenix market and we start to drill down into this large cluster, it will show us specifically which neighborhoods inside of that greater Phoenix market, the neighborhoods that you should be targeting, because not all of the areas in Phoenix are created equal. You can see down here, I don't know if you know this area, Ryan, but what's Tolleson?
Yep. Tolleson is a lot being developed and built out that way. As you could see, though, just the investor activity is not as strong as it was, or not it was, is in northern Phoenix, more of Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, even Glendale. Some parts of West Valley are a little bit better than some of that Southwest. So plenty of opportunity out there, just maybe not in Tolleson as much.
Right. And again, it's opportunity cost. So don't go in here and beat your head against the wall trying to find something in Tolleson because that's where you live and that's where it's easy for you to go and look at houses and drive for dollars. Like go that extra mile and go to where the other areas are. Now, if you don't live in Phoenix, that's perfectly okay because you don't have to go and drive and see a house to know if the numbers make sense. The numbers don't make sense if you just go look at it with your own two eyes. The data tells you what the numbers are. I mean, it seems obvious, right? But if that was so obvious, then people wouldn't be like pounding their fist on the desk saying, I need to look for deals where I live. People would just be going anywhere in the United States and doing deals. So you really have to start thinking about the data is the king. So if we drill down here, these are the areas where we want to look for deals. Okay. If you're not from Phoenix, that's okay. You can just look at all these closed flips to learn what a deal is. You can't go and find a deal if you don't know what a deal is. And these here is basically what will lay out what a deal is. So you can understand the margins, you can understand what they're buying properties for, what they're selling them for, how much money they make, and most importantly, what percentage of ARV those buyers are buying at.
Love it. And also, too, one of the things reason why we're bringing up Phoenix today, too, we always talk about finding buyers. Well, if you're in a market like this, you're doing deals virtually. That's one of the biggest benefits to Privy, like Benson had said. You could be at the comfort of your own home doing deals like this with Privy. So what better way than to show you a market that I'm in as well? So if you guys do have questions or if you needed a buy number on a property, I am more than happy to be a resource for you in this market as well. So the whole show and out of all the episodes we've done, I've gone into random markets. In markets like today, we can go in Phoenix, we can go in different markets afterwards too. I wanted to give you guys the confidence to show you how we could look at numbers using a software like Privy, but also too, let's break it down. Benson said data is king. I think he's spot on. So many of us are overthinking this process where we're trying to find properties and we're looking at photos as opposed to looking at data. If you look at the data, you can see who the buyer is. You can see who the agent is. You could possibly even see before and after and what they bought the property at. That is the best case scenario to a deal like this right here on Palo Verde.
Yeah, this one was an on-market deal. They got it at 57% of the ARV. So, what we always tell you is like, don't believe the hype. All of the best deals don't come off from the off-market leads. They can be found just as easily, or actually, I think more easily, by looking at on-market deals because it's just they've raised their hand. They're motivated to sell. And what are we always looking for? Motivated sellers. Someone who's on a foreclosure list is not motivated to sell. They aren't even motivated to pay their mortgage payment. Do you think they're going to be motivated to sell their house? No, they got their head in the sand.
And how much money did it cost you to get that lead? I mean, it might have costed you $500. It might have costed you, I mean, you want to get some serious level conversation. It might have costed you your marriage. How many times you have to get up at the dinner table because the phone rang and you had to walk away because you have a business on the line? I hear you. I've been there. I'm not married, so I didn't get divorced. Do you want to risk the marriage over going direct to seller? It's such a bad analogy, but yeah, I
No,
mean,
that was actually really important that you said that, because we only think about the financial costs of
for
finding a
real.
lead. There's also the time cost, and then you talked about relationships. Like if you are on the phone, if you're dialing for dollars all day and you're chasing people and you're driving around, and you know,
It's sad stuff, dude.
there's other costs.
It is. And like that's the thing that with this, you could do it. You want to do 2 hours a day? You pick your 2 hours. I would definitely tell you to proceed with caution if you're going to call an agent at 2 a.m. But as long as you have the awareness of what time zone they're in and you're calling them at a reasonable time, typically, if I would tell you what's a reasonable time for a realtor, 8 a.m. might be a little early. 9 a.m. is perfect. Anytime up until even 6 o'clock. I would say once you hit around that 6:30, 7 o'clock range, it might be a little bit too late. But from 9 to 6-ish, you've got plenty of time to call realtors. So pick any 2, 3, 4 hours. I've seen people use Privy, and I've even done this. I just am trying to scale, but where you could go and do 2 hours of work in your week using a software like Privy and pull a deal and make 10K. Well, you do that 4 times in a month. That's 40K for what? 8 hours of work? Are you kidding me? You could work less than 10 hours a week with Privy and go and make close to $50,000, if not more, just by working on your own time schedule. There's little to no sacrifice. Yes, there's an investment, but you guys want to know another secret? This is actually cheaper than most MLSs. So those that are realtors that pay for an MLS, their fees and dues that they pay for access every single year are less or are more than what you would pay for Privy. So you don't have to get licensed. You can go out there, you could pay monthly subscriptions, and you could have a software doing all the work for you on your own schedule.
And then we can connect you with agents to work with. Right. And by the way, too, when I was working a lot with clients, before Privy, I talked to my buyers, and I would give them permission to call me at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. So it doesn't mean you can't call someone after 6:30. Talk to your agent, figure out what the expectations are of that relationship. And if they don't mind taking calls at 9, then call them at 9. Right. Because if you're at your 9 to 5 all day, right, and you can't call someone because you're at work and you're going to get fired, you may only be able to do stuff from 5 to 9 o'clock. And if you have an agent who's willing to take those calls, then that's somebody you want to work with.
Absolutely.
So this property right here, again, we're not going to focus too much on sold today or market research or finding agents. We're going to look for deals. But in 2 of the last 3 cases, we were found properties between 57 and 64% of the ARV. And both of those were on market. So it's doable in this area. We can find properties that are at good deals. And we know that buyers are willing to pay up to 64%.
Absolutely. And also too, I mean, just to kind of paint the picture for everybody, I'll pull up our updated buy box, but I mean, we're buying up to about like 70-ish, 71, 72%. So these single family homes, I mean, just perspective sake, when you find buyers too, you could actually go out there and understand your goal is to find the best buyer, but the best buyer isn't typically the one that's going to pay the most. It's the one that's going to perform on just about every deal. Now, when you could start going out there and saying, hey, you know what, I've got confidence that I've got 1, 2, 3 buyers. Well, now we're in business. Now we are an actual wholesaler. We have multiple clientele and multiple vendors. If you even want to get like technical, multiple vendors that you could sell these properties to. So why not go out there and build the relationships with multiple buyers by starting off with the sold data, doing your market research, kind of identifying first off areas that are hot. Second, who's buying and what percentages. 3, where are most of the active deals at currently? Are they around where the buyers are? Odds are probably yes. So now can you find active deals that are up to that percentage that are currently on market? Privy does all the legwork for you, from days on market to filtering out the best investor activity deals to go for. And you could see based on the condition, based on the percentages, based on the data, if it's actually worth going after or not.
Yeah. So let's look at some properties here real quickly. Elizabeth was just asking about delays in data. If you're in a direct to MLS data market, it's the most up-to-date data you can get, period. If you're in a third-party area where Privy doesn't have direct to MLS, then there's going to be some delays. But that's the same with all platforms. We're the only ones that have the direct to MLS data on scale. So in our direct to MLS areas, that's where you're going to have like the tip of the spear accuracy and up to date data. So let's look for some deals then. All right. So
Let's do
we're
it.
going to come up to the filter. I'm going to click find similar active deals. This is our easy button, you guys. This is one button to see opportunities. You don't have to go in and complete a whole complicated filter here. You can do that if you want, but we want to make it super simple. See, with a click of a single button, Privy is going out and it's searching for opportunities, and then we can change the filter because there is a default amount that we put in there. So is 70 where you want to be?
Right? Yeah, let's do 70, 71, whatever.
Okay, so let's put it at 70%. And let's lower the price too. Let's go down to like, say, what do you think? 750?
Yeah, 700 is even good.
Let's do 710.
Cool.
All right. So here's some properties that Privy found that could be good deals. Now, again, what we're doing is what happened here, I think a lot of people take it for granted. Because in the normal world, what you'd have to do is you'd have to go through every single listing that came on the market or that's on the market, and you'd have to go and run comps on it. Mm-hmm. And then after you've run comps on it, which could take you hours, depending upon how good you are, and then you realize, oh man, the numbers don't work. You set that one aside and then you do the next one. It is such a complicated process to be able to analyze all those properties and really find the ones that you should be going after, because there might be 100 new listings on the market tomorrow in the greater Phoenix area. That's not unrealistic, is it?
Not at all, especially depending on the area. And Benson, you just mentioned a really good point. I mean, you want to talk about taking it for granted? People don't realize that going from sold to active is actually a separate search too. So having Privy not even just go in and do the sold data, but it's going to show you investor sold data, meaning that this was actually bought and sold from the data that shows that this was probably an investment deal. So if that's the case and it was an investment deal that was sold, well, now we're able to go and really niche down on like specific searches. So now with the click of a button, we're now looking at active. Okay, we're looking at active deals that based on the criteria of what just sold and what buyers we have, we can see exactly what to go after and target based on what's currently on market. So sold data is going to be thousands, if not millions of records. Well, active could be hundreds active just in that day that might have just popped up, or it could even be thousands that are active currently in your market. In Phoenix, we've got over 10,000 active listings. I mean, in reality, that's very, very low for what our market demand is at the current moment. Yeah. But having 10,000 plus, some markets have like 2,000. So if you're only seeing 30, 40 active listings a day, would you rather go through 30, 40 active listings a day or have the system tell you go after these 1, 2, 3 properties every single day? That's the benefit.
Yeah, and you're super dialed in. You know, again, if you do have a 9 to 5, every minute you spend in your business should be very intentional. And if there's 100 new properties that come on the market tomorrow, you might analyze 10 of them before you run out of time. And so like 90 properties didn't even get comps run on them because you ran out of time. Tomorrow there's going to be a whole new batch of properties that come on the market. And then again, and you're going to always run out of time because you can't accurately spend the time to pull those needles out of the haystack doing it manually. So we eliminate all the stuff that has no data that says it's a deal. And then we show you the ones that say there is data that says it's a deal. And then you have to look at the ones that we've isolated to determine if there's maybe some reasons why it's not a deal. And that should be the way you look at it. Don't look at ways to create deals based off of bias. Be objective and say, this one's not a deal because of this. This one's not a deal because of this. Look for reasons why properties aren't deals. It's a safer way of approaching it.
For sure. Especially if you're newer, you're trying to act like an investor. Do you think every investor buys every property they look at? No. The best investors say no more than they say yes. So why wouldn't you want to do the same? If you're trying to be the best investor, let's understand why not rather than why it should be a deal. Benson, you gave a great analogy. And I think that a lot of people might have even missed out on that. Don't be the deal like creator person. Don't be, I think Brent even says that too, that we are deal finders, not deal creators. You have to go out there and find potential deals. We're not going to try to jam this into a hole and say, this is a deal. We're going to say, this might be a deal, or with confidence, this is a deal. More often than not, we're going to say this is not a deal because of this.
Right. The other thing to look at is that you guys, every property is a deal at the right price.
Absolutely.
It's just we have to think about what's realistic. Like this house right here on 21st, it's for sale for 275. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Our system flagged this as a deal. It just came on the market today.
Yep.
So this is a newer one. I know you're not a big fan of going after new ones, but if the numbers make sense, why not? Why pass on this and look for something that's older if the numbers make sense? Like get an
You're
offer
spot
on
on.
it. You might win.
And also too, I mean, at the beginning I mentioned like different situational awareness moments. In this case, because it's day one on market, I have to have the awareness that if they have multiple offers, am I likely to get it under contract with representing myself, or am I more likely to get it under contract with them representing me? So in this case, if I were to have them do dual agency, I'm not going to jump into that being the solution. But if that's what's going to get the deal done, it's not a bad alternative. The only downfall in a market like Phoenix is going day one on market, getting a property at list price. Most properties with the demand being so high are going to go under contract fast if it really is a deal, where selling a wholesale deal above list price in 2023 is extremely difficult, at least in Arizona. So in this case, what's the most likely situation that would get me this property under contract, assuming it's a deal, under list price? Well, it's not me representing myself and being the lowest offer. It would be me having the other agent represent me and possibly getting this, if it was a smoking deal at 275, maybe at like 270, 265. That's the goal. That's the situational awareness. And that's all without even deep diving into the numbers, trying to see, is this a deal yet? So that's our goal. We're trying to identify, we're trying to have the awareness, we're trying to figure out what the best solution is, not just for us, but for the seller and for the agent.
And the numbers on this one look pretty good. I mean, look at this. So it's 275. This one right here just sold for 409. They paid 302 for theirs. You mean this one for $25,000, actually $27,000 less than what they bought theirs for, and we're willing to flip.
Yep.
So all I got to do is get this thing under contract. Now, I don't know. There's the wholesale world, which is, you're going to assign the contract, but also be conscious too. Like if you think you have to bid up to get a property and the numbers still make sense, we'll figure out a way to double close it. Like if you can close that and fund the first deal, and then now you own it, right? Now it's not a wholesale deal per se. You can go, now maybe you could go and clean it up, put it on the market for 290 and make a quick $20,000 with just spending $5,000 on it or 10,000. Like those are opportunities, you guys, if you have the financial ability to do it, where you might lose if you have to do just a traditional, you're thinking about assignment. But if you have to go a little bit higher and then you could figure out a way to fund that closing, go in and trim the trees, take everything, clean it up, just make it like a little bit better. The market's going up right now. You could probably, let's say the double close thing works, Ryan. Let's say you had to close in this. Could you put this on the market for like 90 grand in 10 days after closing?
Absolutely. And Ricardo just hit it right on the head. Is that considered a wholesale? Definitely. We could buy this property. We could turn around, clean it up, put it right back on the market. Is it realistic at 315, 320? Maybe. I think if it was cleaned up a little bit where we went and did a slight remodel, yes. I think that we're just going to take it in the condition it's in, try to remarket it. We would just want to make sure that the numbers on the back end with commission, closing costs, holding costs, it all is going to obviously be profitable. But I would say you could probably sell this thing just based on first glance, 290, 300-ish without hesitation. So is there enough spread there between 270, 275 and that 295, 300? If you've got cheap private holding costs or whatever, hard money loans, whatever it is that you have, as long as you can make it as quick as possible, that's where I think this strategy would work. And I love what you said about double close. I think a double close is probably more along the lines here. That's where you'd have to make sure your buyer is going to be interested and still be okay with it if you're sending it out higher than what they can find it currently pending on the MLS at. So it all comes down to speed. It all comes down to quality. And obviously going back to, like we said, the relationships with the buyers. So in this case, you don't know until you call. So we could create all these hypotheticals, all these different narratives and what ifs. But in reality, I think you should just call them. This is a great reference here too. We can make a first note. This is obviously remodeled from the exterior, but it's a carport. There's no garage. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, just under 1,400 square feet, single story, built in 1964, around 6,000 square feet for the lot. Now, the only other question I would have is there a pool or is there no pool? Because once you can figure out that in Arizona, you've pretty much checked all your boxes. You have the basics on the property. You can see this person obviously knows what they're doing with remodel, clean cut, got a pool. This is a great remodel. 409, 410 would be ARV on this because this is the after repair value. So they're 4.2, 1,400 square feet. We are a 4.2, a little bit bigger. We are around the same size square foot lot. Do we have a garage on our property or a pool?
I don't remember. I don't think there's a pool.
Don't think we had. I don't think we had either. And that's okay, because at that point too, it's just going to tell us that our ARV is just a little bit lower.
Yeah. So no pool. No garage.
Okay. So realistically, I mean, I would be just at first glance, because the other one sold at like 410. We're probably at like 380, 375, 380. But this is, again, awareness piece, just knowing the market the way we do. 380 realistically in this market could also go up to 400 relatively quickly. Now, having another property at 400 that is remodeled, this is going to be a telling tale here, just based on the condition. Obviously, again, it is remodeled. If it has a pool, ARV I'd probably say is 375, 380. If it doesn't have a pool, which fingers crossed it doesn't, we would be able to justify probably closer to a 400K ARV all day long. Yeah,
it has the garage, no pool.
So garage, no pool is 400. I think we're spot on around 385-ish, 380. So 380 ARV, well, we're listed at 275. Now it's just a matter of knowing how to calculate our numbers. And again, do I need to go do all of this before even contacting the agent? No, but it's good just to know kind of where my headspace is at before going into the conversation. So 380, we're also a smaller house, 1,400 square feet times 0.93 minus, let's go 50 minus 50. We're a little bit lower than list. So realistically, in a comfort zone for most people that are flipping this, they're going to want this around like 250, 260 range. We're at 275. So one of the biggest limiting beliefs, I think, aside from there's nobody buying on the MLS, is that there's no deals on the MLS. Well, if this is at 275 list price and I'm saying maybe 260, that's $15,000. Can you justify a $15,000 difference in price based on the condition? Because guess what? Who's the person that's going to beat you out on this property getting it under contract? It's not going to be me. If I'm going in looking to flip it, it's going to be somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. It's going to be a wholesaler that locks it up too high. Now, the greatest learning lesson inside this business that I've had so far with wholesaling is actually just putting aside the ego and seeing the trends. The market is what it is, and each market's drastically different. But do you know what I've seen happen so often? I've walked away from a property because it didn't match my numbers, but then somebody else will get this property at 285 and they will wholesale it at 300,000. What does that mean? It's not that I suck. It's that the person that got it at 300,000, first off, kudos to the wholesaler. They definitely have a better buyer than I do. But then also for the buyer, it's all relative. A deal is relative to a buyer based on what they're looking to do with it. Because 300,000 to somebody that's keeping this as a rental, that's a steal. That's built-in equity. That's great for a buy and hold investor. For somebody flipping it, may not be the greatest deal. But if you can understand again that deals are relative, now it's just a matter of painting the picture to whichever buyer it is you're trying to put into this deal. And most of these that are rented, just based off of an assumption, are probably not remodeled. So that means that they might even be under rent value. So if you could go in and justify this being a potential $3,000 a month, $2,750 for a rental, okay, that for a buy and hold investor actually sounds really appealing. Why?
Yeah.
No pool. There's no liability in the backyard. This is easier maintenance. So now it's just a matter of making sure they have a qualified tenant. Do you guys see the process as to how we're thinking this through, how we're running our numbers, how we're able to paint the picture before we're even going and calling the agent? Again, all hypothetical, but based on just experience and knowing my market as well as I do, I can justify whatever picture it is I'm trying to paint. I might go in trying to justify it being for a buy and hold investor, might try to go in and give them a number that's confident for me being able to fix and flip it myself. But at the end of the day, our goal is to go in and just build the relationship and provide value. Because at the end of the day, well, as much as I want to get this deal done with, I think it's Jeff that has the listing. Jeff may not be able to get the deal done with me. There might be an offer that comes in. It's 310, 315. I just can't justify that price. Well, congrats, Jeff. You got a deal. How do I get the next one before it goes on to the MLS? That's what I'm trying to make sure everybody here understands, is that if you can really get the gist of the process and the concept of the strategy, the rest of it, again, going back to a numbers game, is just based on you and your production. How many of these calls, how many deals can you underwrite in a day? I love asking people how many offers they submit, but if you don't understand, submitting offers is, again, tip of the iceberg. The next question that should follow up that is, how many deals did you underwrite in a day? Because if you underwrote 3 deals and you submitted 3 offers, I'm scratching my head asking why. If you submitted 3 offers, but you underwrote 30 deals, great. I hope you felt like you won today because you did. You took that big step forward in that leap of faith where you actually saw results. 3 offers over time will lead to getting a deal. It's a matter of when, not if. So now it's just going in and understanding the whole picture here, and then we can go in and obviously make this deal happen.
Yeah, one of the things I want to point out here is that you nailed it. That if this property, if we can get this to a point where it's rental grade, and we don't have to put a whole lot of money into it, we don't have to get it at
70%,
60% of the ARV, or 70% of the ARV. You can get it 80% or 90% of the ARV as long as the rents are there. So leverage this new rental data. This is what we were talking about earlier about the new rental data features that are inside of Privy. This rental data is the best available. This comes from property management companies, you guys. And we know whether it's been rented or whether it's currently a rent for sale, or what would you call it? It's a listed rental. So it says rented right here. So this is the final amount, was actually $19.95. This one over here on the far left, this one was listed 29 days ago. So it is not fully rented yet. All right, so keep that in consideration. This one could be an amazing deal. And this is such a great reason to start building out your landlord buyers, not just
buy and hold investors are my favorite, dude. Like they are
buy and hold investors.
They are the best. They're the ones that make the easiest transactions, in my opinion. Fix and flippers aren't bad. I'm a fix and flipper too. The problem is that when you go in and you start looking at properties, it's very easy to justify an additional 5-10K in expense on your renovation budget just because you've been burned before. Or if you were doing a lot of flips in the past year, 2 years, you know exactly what happened. So an extra 5-10K for a flipper, that's just being conservative. Whereas if you look at buy and hold investors, they just care about the numbers and the returns. So I mentioned that just not as a distraction, but to understand, again, situationally, this is still an opportunity. We don't know until we call. So we've gone through a bunch of these different opportunities of what could happen in this transaction. But how about we just call him and see what happens? That's what I'm going to encourage all of you guys to do too.
Did you find Jeff's contact info?
Yep.
Perfect. While you're doing that, you guys, I want to show you real quickly. I just pulled the zip code for this property. If you want to find landlord buyers, then it's really simple in Privy. You just come in here and you click sold, come down to the very bottom. You're going to click absentee owners, and then you're going to choose a timeline all. So you don't care when they bought it. It could have been last week or it could have been 2 years ago. These are all the people who have they're landlord buyers. Single family sold. Do I have another filter in here? All. Yeah. So there's not a ton right here in the zip code. Let's include surrounding areas because people will cross over. It's not just specific zip codes.
There you go.
And we got a lot more landlord buyers who potentially would be interested in this property. So we can pull that list from Privy. Earlier I told you get 10,000 per month.
Well, in a conversation, I mean, just to walk through situationally what that would look like. Hey, what's up? My name is Ryan. Calling about. I think you own a property out in the 85029 area code. Just wanted to reach out. I'm working on one right now. Are you looking for another rental in the area? You mentioned the zip code as to where they already own a property. They're more likely going to take you seriously because you're not just calling saying, are you an investor looking for another deal? You're not a VA calling somebody trying to get them just added to a database. You're trying to actually go and provide value. And if we're actually working a potential deal on 21st Drive, let's call Jeff. We're ready to get some deals.
Let's talk to Jeff. AZ Home Seekers. But Jeff's phone has been blowing up all day.
I'm sure of it. 100% sure of it.
Hi, you've reached Jeff Jones with AZ Home Seekers. Please leave me a detailed message. I'll get back with you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for calling. Make it a great day.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, what's up, Jeff? My name is Ryan. I'm sure your phone is getting absolutely blown up today about 21st Drive. I'm interested in purchasing it. Just had a couple questions. If you could just give me a shout back, this is my cell. Thanks. Bye. Remember, our goal is to get a response. So if we're looking for a response and we're trying to push that on Jeff, if I were to call him and say, hey, Jeff, my name is Ryan. I'm with Real Broker, calling about property you've got listed. I've got a client interested. Give me a shout back. Benson said it right before it got to voicemail, but his phone, I'm sure, is getting blown up. So if his phone is getting blown up, what's going to incline him to call me back? Well, the thing that I didn't say there is that I'm a licensed agent. Is that what I'm supposed to do or not supposed to do? Guess what? There's nothing that says I need to disclose it in my very first conversation with him, and he did not answer the phone. So what my expectation is with him is that I could be a potential client. I don't need to use my real estate license on the transaction. So in this case, if he does have multiple offers, what would be a way that I could be considered serious and have an actual potential chance of getting the deal if I'm not going and representing myself? It's by having him represent me. So the way I get him to represent me is first by gauging interest and getting him to call me back. So that was the point of the voicemail. That was the structure of it. That's the whole flow. And obviously, like we mentioned, we went through all that stuff of potential. Then you call, they don't answer. How many of you just forget about that lead? Because if you notice, I'm looking down, I wrote down the address. What do you think I'm going to do after the show? I'm going to hopefully race you guys to the deal. So that's exactly where we're at. That's what the plan is. It's all what if and hypothetical until you call and you actually get some answers.
Yeah, and this might be a time where it's appropriate to send a text.
For sure.
You know, what makes you different? You got to think of a way to stick out from the crowd, say something ridiculous. I remember some time back, Ryan, I was doing a live with Jamil and he was speaking in a foreign language.
Oh my gosh.
He was like, we got on one call, he called somebody in a British accent. I got another call, it was English. Another call, it was an Indian accent. And he was getting callbacks. So do something that's unique that you can use, and you might A/B test that. Like one day try something, another day try something else, and look at your numbers and the amount of people that are calling back. You'll find something that's like a magic bullet that you can do that's different, that makes you stick out from the crowd.
I love it. And that's a great note, guys. I mean, if you're just trying to be like everybody else and blend in, that's actually one of like my biggest like turnoffs when I've been hearing that a lot recently, where people are like, I just want to blend in. I just want to be like everybody else. I just want to be like the investors that are out there doing X, Y, and Z. First off, you're already losing because you're comparing yourself to where you feel like you should be, but you don't even know that person inside and out. So the next piece then is obviously people choosing the fame and rather than the fortune. And I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but at the end of the day, what you need to understand about this strategy is that we're really not trying to go out there and reinvent the wheel. We're trying to just double down and be the best versions of ourselves and do right in business. So how often can you go and do that on a daily basis? Can you play the game right? And can you be memorable? Can you provide enough value? Can you go out there and do this consistently? Because in return, it leads to deals. I am a living proof, walking proof, whatever you want to say, version of this. There is nothing special that I'm going and doing here other than just staying consistent. I think that's why we have the leg up and why we have such a head start on most people trying to do MLS deals and doing stuff with agent outreach. We've been doing it for years. The only thing that I haven't been using for years is Privy, because if Privy was here, I would literally be on an island if I had Privy when I first started doing real estate investing. I probably also would have a lot more money in the bank that I didn't lose going direct to seller because I was too stubborn trying to compare myself to where I thought I should be rather than just sticking to what I knew, which was MLS and agents. That's my soapbox. That's my mic drop. That's the, you guys got this. I appreciate you guys. And I know you could do it too.
So here's another one. This is a much higher end property. You know, I don't know if you start to consider this luxury, but it's definitely dated. Like this house was, updated back in the 80s, maybe early 90s, but it's got that old green granite and wood paneling, and that carpet looks like it's really dated. But the reason why this one was flagged as a deal is because of this comp down here. So this comp, I think, is a good comp. Newer. I don't know how recent this renovation was, but you can see it's been updated. It's got a pool as well, but it went for 1.1 million. So that's a $450,000 difference in these two properties that are comps.
For sure. And ours has a pool too, if I'm not mistaken.
It does.
No fridge on
lot
that one,
size. I mean, there's a decent margin here.
That's insane.
Now, is this something you want to call on?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's Nicholas Chinchola.
Yep. Let's go ahead and call him.
Chinchola. I don't know how to pronounce that. How do you think that's pronounced?
Chinchilla.
Chinchilla.
Definitely not.
Hello, Nick.
Hey Nick, this is Ryan. I'm calling about a property I think you've got listed out on 13th Ave.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is that one still available?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm interested in purchasing it myself. I'm a flipper, so I'm local in the area. The thing that caught my attention, obviously, is that I think it's priced pretty fairly. I think it might be just a little bit below list price for my offer, but based on the condition, it looks like it's just a little outdated. Is there anything from the photos that I can't see that's like major renovation or anything like that?
Not what I would sell. No.
Gotcha. Okay. Is that a basement too? I'm trying to like kind of put together the picture on the photos.
No. Nope. It's a game room off the back of the house.
Game room off the back of the house. Okay. Is it all permitted? Everything was all done up to code?
As far as I know, the previous owner did all of the work.
Sure.
But we've already countered a offer like $3,000 off list price. So if you're going to be any more $3,000 off, don't waste my time.
No, yeah, I completely understand, man. I would be cash as is. Kind of, I don't like saying quick close because that's not always what the seller's looking for. Is he looking for anything specific in terms to make the offer more appealing?
Just don't waste my time, like I said. So.
Makes sense to me, man. Well, you're a straight shooter. I'll run some numbers on it, and then I'll just send you a text, kind of ballpark of where I'm at. And if it makes sense, then maybe we could put something in writing. If it doesn't, then no harm, no foul.
Okay, sounds
awesome.
Good.
Thanks, Nick. Bye. I asked him how to pronounce his last name, but Nick is apparently too good for me. So
he is way too cool for you, man.
Don't waste my time. Well, Nick, you're trying to sell a blankety blank listing, and you have an offer that you don't have accepted. So there's no victory lap. It's like that Kobe Bryant interview. Job's not finished. What are you doing, bro? You're acting like you're better than everybody. Don't waste my time. That's how you're talking to buyers.
I know.
Nick,
that was
Nick. No way.
It's because he's representing buyers in this price range. He thinks he's been there, done that.
For sure. And don't get me wrong, I get it too. But what Nick doesn't understand is that if he's not using a software like Privy or utilizing agent investor strategies, Nick's time in the industry is going to be limited only knowing how to sell houses in this price range. Because what's going to happen in a number of years when it's regulated and wholesalers start inundating the marketplace that are now licensed agents that are also falling across these opportunities? What's going to happen in a number of years when the potential of a real estate agent is obsolete or a flat fee because they're overpriced because the quality they provide isn't there? At that point, if you don't have multiple exit strategies, if you don't have properties of your own, if you don't have an actual skill set or people skills, now I'll cuss, you're fucked. Okay. Like at that point, that's when you got to understand your business is just, you're not a business person. And that's nothing against Nick. Bless his heart. Dude seems like he's older. Don't waste my time. I would never tell that to a prospective client on the phone. So if you are a realtor and that's how you're answering the phone, don't.
But I love how you handled it too, right? Like you didn't take offense to it. You're like, oh, I can see you're a straight shooter. Yep. Like that's a really good comeback.
Yeah. And I respect it, dude. If anything, I actually play kind of on that game too, on the traditional side of negotiations. But when I'm first talking to people and trying to establish leverage, communication's all you got. First impression's all you got. You think I'm going to be super excited when I call Nick again? No. That's why I said I'm going to send you a text. And if it makes sense, great, put it in writing. If it doesn't make sense, okay. But what did I also get out of somebody like that? Well, I got great feedback. If they have a property or a offer that came in that was $3,000 off of list price. Okay, sounds good. Is there any terms the seller's looking for to make it better? No. Okay, sounds good. Don't waste my time. That was the worst answer he could have given. How soon is the seller looking to close? Do you have a preferred title company? Do you want a shortened inspection period? Did you even tell me if the other person was financed off or if they were cash? He said, I think it was permitted, but the homeowner did all the work. You want to talk about not wasting anybody's time? How about we know what the seller did and if it was permitted and up to code? Because if you get into an inspection period and find out it wasn't, you want to talk about who's going to have to disclose that and back out?
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that comes with experience and knowing these kind of deals. So in this case, it's all good. We're riding the wave. We're not going to let Nick ruin our mood. I love how Jedi said it in the comments. Good job keeping it cool. I have dealt with much worse than Nick. I've been called much worse than what I'm sure Nick was even thinking in his head as we were talking to him. So it's all good. We are on the good vibe train going just up. We are all good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there like that too. This isn't like an agent thing, you guys. You're going to find that in any industry where people they just don't have the time to deal and they don't want to put in the extra work. So, somebody just said, good job in keeping your cool. Like that's business in general, you guys. Like keep your cool, stay level-headed, try not to let your emotion get involved in doing a quick response. Think about what you're going to say. All of those things are great. It goes a long way.
For sure. And in that case too, I haven't ran the numbers on that one yet. I just wanted to call. There's a few things that I would want to factor in. I see that there's probably a couple other comps around there, but I'll go ahead and I'll do that one so we're not wasting anybody's time on this. We got just a few minutes left, but I'll go in and I'll comp that one. If you guys are in our Discord, I'll post in there what our price is going to be on that one. And then if you guys end up getting it too, I'd love to JV it with you.
Yeah. Yeah, these are some big properties, lots of different variations in lot size. We on the first pass we pull all the comparables, and so there's some other comps here that we didn't show, but what Privy does is it shows you the comps in blue that support the percentage of ARV that we use to find the property in the first place. So this is that one comp that says that it's at 70% of the ARV or lower. These other comps here also are comparables. We just didn't show them because this one sold for $935. So that would put this at 75%. If this is our ARV, this would be at 77. So if we determine that it's not 1.1 million is the ARV, and it's something that's closer down here, well, we can still use these comps. What that just means is we have to offer this much lower to make the numbers work, to get it to that level. So these other comps are here for you. And then, of course, you can use the comp adjuster in the setting section here. And you might even go in and adjust this a bit to say like 20% plus or minus in the square footage. You give you another 5% buffer there. We just start Joe off at 15% because that really does help. And then look at brought in this other comp here, but this is newer. So, if this one was like really, really run down, it might make a good tear down, but
for
not
sure.
That price.
Well, and honestly, I think ARV ballpark again, without deep diving too far into it, 925 to a mil. I think if you do it beautiful, a mil all day long, it can justify that price. It's proven by the comps around it. If you're looking at it being around the 925, I think that's more around the conservative number. But I think if you do a good remodel, you got to remember its location, its size of the house. It's got a 2-car garage. It's a big lot with a pool, single level, with add-on, permitted or not. So there's a lot of good things in this one value-wise that make it worth the while. The goal here is really to show you guys that Privy does the work for you. I always say too, it's like when you have the framework of a car and you just need to go and put the fuel in the engine. Well, that's kind of like you doing the work. I think the thing about Privy is that it's almost like an electric vehicle. Has like autopilot and all that freaking like automatic driving steering for you. All you have to do is just get in the car. So getting in the car is just getting inside Privy. So if you're inside Privy and you have buyers in markets, which we've proven time and time again how to go and find them, we've shown all the ins and outs inside the system. Now you have to just find a market that works for you. I love Phoenix. I love Florida. We've had success in markets across the entire country. I can tell you which ones I like, which ones I don't, but I'm not going to steer you in one direction or the other. I think you guys have to figure out what works for you and then just get comfortable. And if you aren't comfortable, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Understanding that that's where growth happens. That's where the fear mentality. And if you go on the other side of it, it's actually pretty damn cool. That whole saying like, oh, it's lonely at the top. I don't think so. We have a really cool community. We have a really cool team. We have a really cool opportunity where I've even met the love of my life doing this business. So if you can understand business partners, spouses, friends, partners, all these people come from just doing the work. What's holding you back? Go and find that community and find that ecosystem that could support you and help you grow And if it's a market in Phoenix or Florida, lean in on me. I'm more than happy to help you out, more than happy to be a resource. Would love to buy some deals from you guys. I think there's so much opportunity out there. You know exactly what it is we're looking for with this exact strategy. It's just a matter of who can get there first, who can provide the most amount of value, and then who can create the absolute best genuine relationships. That's the name of the game.
100%. Appreciate everybody coming today. Thank you so much. Ryan, you killed it as usual.
Appreciate it.
It's so good on the phone. You guys, if you haven't taken a closer look at agent investors yet, and you like the strategy that we use today, like look closer at it. Like there's really good people in there. I had a chance when I was out in Phoenix last time to meet a lot of the people that were there, and just like high quality people that you want to be around. And that's one of the best parts about this is that, you know, if you're out there and you're trying to solo entrepreneur this thing, it's going to be way harder. You're not going to have those extra ears. You're not going to have the people to bounce ideas off of. You're not going to have the extra support and those days when you just feel like not doing anything. Well, if you know that there's someone else in the community there that's like depending on you, or that, you know, could critique and be like, hey man, you know, Joe didn't show up to our call today. What happened?
Yep.
What's going on with Joe? Like those little extra incentives will help keep you like on point. So you're doing the things that even when you don't feel like doing them, you're still doing them because you're part of a community. So take a closer look at agent investors, you guys. It's a really good group.
Well, we appreciate that. And make sure you guys use code Privy. You guys can get a discount. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.